Hero Club presents Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu. Hello and welcome to the 13th episode of Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu. This is unfortunately our most unlucky episode thus far, but before we can explain why it's sort of an unlucky episode, I'm your host, Wheelchair21, and I'm joined today by Janitor Joker. Later on in the episode, we'll be joined by Otaku Gangsta. And so, yeah, Joker, what's up?
Nothing much. Kind of feeling down at the moment.
Yeah. So, we're going to hit everyone off with the bad news first, because it's the biggest thing in the Toku community right now, aside from, the new skin released by Blizzard for Overwatch, which, is a Sentai-based writer. Yeah, Genji's, Sentai suit. But Tatsuya Nomi, who is best known for being Daigo / Shishi Ranger and Gosei Sentai Dai Ranger, has passed away. The circumstances are suicide. These were confirmed over the weekend via his brother. And astonishingly enough, this actually, when the news broke for Western fans, was during the Kaku Ranger stream, right after it. So, just think about that. Everyone just got finished watching the series that succeeded it, to find out the series that preceded it, one of their actors had died. And not in a, way of, illness or accident. He took it upon himself. And it's really tragic. A lot of people, love Daigo's character, and it just blew us away. So, you got anything to say that's briefly without kind of spoiling our tribute to him next week, which is his, character development arcs as well as, the Kujaku love story?
I'll just say that I really enjoyed his performance as Daigo. I feel like he was trying to be like Tetsuro Kurata from Kamen Rider Black, but in Dai Ranger's world. So it was just enjoyable to watch him do the things that he did in the show without saying too much. I think he was good. And
I can say he tried to mimic Black at times, but he also always looked so mean and angry. But then again, I think he just had resting bitch face. That's just me. I love the guy, but he always looked like he wanted to kill somebody. He never naturally looked happy unless Kujaku was around. And we'll hear more about this next week when we hold our tribute to him, which is literally every character development episode thus far for him.
I feel like the one thing that was really cool is it was at Power Morphicon, and they recorded the video of him in Japan still, but saying hello to everybody. And
yeah,
when Ryu Ranger's actor was at Power Morphicon, they all did the Dai Ranger sequence.
Yeah,
and poses.
And the one thing I find kind of tragic about that video is where he says, "Sorry, I can't be there. I hope to be there next time."
Yeah.
Which is for anyone who's seen the video or anyone who witnessed the video are well, ain't that some shit? Wow.
I think he's also the first Sentai actor to die since Key Ranger from Go
Yeah,
Ranger.
there's only out of the cast there are deaths in Sentai. However, he is the only death to had occurred when it comes to the main senshi, the Rangers. We've had villains die, voice actors die, but he is the first ever actual actor to portray a senshi / Ranger to die.
Baku Hatakayama, who played Daita Owa from Go Ranger, he also committed suicide.
And that was Key Ranger, right? Yeah, I knew he...
Yeah, Key Ranger.
Yeah, a lot of people forget that, too, that he died also via suicide, which is still astonishingly weird, It's
it's just so very tragic, because, if you're a fan, you probably want to be that person that's, you want to help those guys that made your childhood, great, just be more involved and try to help them to make them happier. And when you don't, you just kind of feel I let them down. But, I don't think you should really have that mentality, because you're just making it worse upon yourself. So try to, remember what those characters did what those actors did as those characters and try to remember the good things rather than just think about letting them.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk more about, actually Tatsuya Nomi more specifically, at least his role as Daigo next week, so people can look forward to that. But, rest in
Yeah.
peace, people with depression. Seek help. There's always a way to survive. You always have people to rely on, even when you think these people hate you and you think the world would be better without you affecting their lives. You're wrong. You're wrong. People care. I should know. I'm a monster. I deal with my wars every day, and somehow the chair always wins. So the other news we have is just some basic Figuarts news. We have the fact that Amazon Neo is going to be released, and new Amazon Omega will be releasing later this fall. They're both retailing around 5,060 yen. There's going to be an Amazon Japan exclusive version, just like the original Amazon Omega and Alpha were, as well as we will be getting a Kamen Rider X8 Mighty Brothers set that's also going to be a web shop exclusive for around 10,520 yen, I think. And there's also going to be a Figuarts Don Moroboshi, yes, Ultra 7 himself in human form, this fall, which is ironic due to the fact that he was never previewed, I think, at a Tamashii show, yet we've seen previews for Hongo as well as, Uchukeiji Gavin, the Figuarts of Hiroshi Fujioka and Kenji Oba first, but yet they're nowhere to be seen at this time. We're getting Don first before them. We're getting an Ultraman before Toei, which seems to run all of Bandai. Is kind of at least a good standpoint if you are a Tokusatsu toy collector, as well as we have the price for the Super Sentai Artisan, what do you call it, the Deca license, the Fire license, and the regular SP license. So we have the Fire SP license, and the regular ones are going to be about $175 USD. So that is a huge chunk of change. Now, people are probably going to be wondering why there's no real effects for most of these figures, or why they were just one blurb. It's just because with the depressing news over the weekend, and with just a small amount of 4 or 5 figures, for a fact that most likely I'm going to at least buy quite a few of them, and Joker's just going to be like, wow, they're cool. I mean, seriously, Joker, tell them exactly what I think you're thinking.
I'm thinking, man, I have no money.
See, exactly. Right where I thought he was going to say. Either no money or, wow, these are cool. I mean, there's nothing much we can really say this week. And it's not that we're not animated about the subject. It's just that when you open up with a death, it's kind of hard to get yourself motivated. But luckily enough, we have 2 interesting subjects for today. One is about creating your own character. In a sense, it's more like create a character based on a theme of a show, or create your own insert character, or based on a character, or some kind of thing you thought for, say, crazy stuff. So I'm going to go to Mucha to explain what this segment's really all about and how he came about the creation of it.
This, I guess, create a character kind of thing it was inspired by a blog post by Shogo Bastard, a guy that I really find very interesting. I read a lot of his stuff, and if you ever get a chance, check him out. But what he did recently was have a blog post about the 7th Zyuranger. And he really went down to the mythology of Zyuranger, and broke down the different story, the different elements of the Zyuranger story, and came up with his own Zyuranger based on the idea of Geki's sister still being alive, as Geki mentioned he had a sister, and how he created this character that was based off ancient turtles and had her own problems to deal with, because her motivation was that she was never recognized, because Burai and Geki are having their competition to be the Yamato King, when she's there also, but she's never really acknowledged, and it's really her story about trying to be acknowledged and show what her worth is all about. And I thought, man, that's actually a cool blog post. Why not make it a neat little subject matter to talk about on the podcast? Because seldom do people actually take the time and to dive into creating a character, and not in the sense of oh, I created this guy and he's going to be super mega awesome, but I mean really dive into the core concepts of the series and really trying to push the limit of what that show brought to the table. And Wheelz created the guidelines and for the Toku Hero, and maybe this will help other people kind of do their own thing, and maybe you can leave a comment on Facebook or do your own blog post and share it with us, and we'll talk about them or have you on. Who knows? I'll have to talk to Wheelz about that. But it's just something to really just bring out the fan in us because we love this genre so much. And
don't forget, this is not a one-time thing. We will be doing this on other occasions, just not weekly.
And I think it's maybe an appropriate time because of what the tragic story, so maybe just really trying to remember the inspiration these heroes brought to us by creating them will really be something beneficial for everyone. So our guidelines was create a Toku hero to exist in an already existing series, can be pre-existing character that does not henching within the series, or an original user in general. Another possibility is that it like a shadowed out entity or character connected to an unmanned, unpartnered mecha. The example that we had was Brachion, Subasamaru, Giga Rhinos, and Jumbo Whale, but there were other things, kind of like time shadowed that jet, but it was also controlled by a mysterious person, but you could create your own character that's actually the pilot of it.
Yeah, pretty much we added that you could create a senshi to be partnered with a mecha, or if, say, like, there was an entity that was maybe loosely foreshadowed in, like, flashbacks that had no consequence. Like, there's several times where you see in Toku where they mention, like, either a character or they mention, like, some previous king, but they never really go further about developing who this so-called king was. Like, for another example we had was saying that, the old rumor of freaking, Kogami is actually the original O's. Like, you could create your own fan story to explain why Kogami is the original O's, or he knew the original O's.
Or like the example that you also used, the Destroy Tiga Titans in Tiga.
Yeah, like those guys. Like the ones that were never awoken.
Yeah. And we also said that you can make your own henshin device, weapons, and power-ups. And if you decide to make an original character just having the same powers, you can make your own original mecha and vehicle, or whatever the motif of that series is. And for this occasion, I think, how about you go first, Wheelz, just to, start it all up.
Alright, now when we first were talking about this concept and doing it, I did not have enough time, per se, to make a well-developed idea. So what I did was, I kind of took a weird idea I had kind of as a kid when I was kind of watching Kamen Rider off and on during those years between, Den-O to Decade, when I wasn't really into the fad of the writers outside of, Ryuki or Black and Black RX at the time, because those were, the only few writers I cared about when I first got into, just the Toei or the original source material tokus. So one thing I saw with Kabuto was I liked the fact that they kind of made me think that they were Metal Hero-esque mixed with the Flash, with the whole clock-up ability. And one thing I wanted was actually to have a worm that was not like Sword level when he became a rider, but have a worm that knew he was a worm, that didn't forget he was a worm, that was just an anarchist that wanted to help further instigate the whole war. Like he was actually either going to be the mastermind or be some kind of just low-key trickster kind of entity that was just going around screwing with everyone. And this character would be a spider worm or something like that, and also have an actual Zector that was based on a tarantula, since, one Zector could be the arachnid of a scorpion, why not an actual spider? And the idea was that when the spider user was able to use it, he would just be able to have almost like a punch syndrome, in Transformers. As a character, almost like Sideways, where he actually could change his own form, where he would go to an Autobot and a Decepticon, but have two different robot forms. For example, the best example for modern age Transformers fans who's never probably seen Headmasters would probably know Transformers animated Shockwave, or it was Shockwave and Longarm in animated, where he actually had, an Autobot form and a Decepticon form, whereas the Spider would have, the ability to, in a sense, when he was like all evil, all like 8 arms would be like sticking out of his back, or giving him like extra like actual 2 arms or something to fight with. Whereas when he's supposed to be like mask mode, which was supposed to be his good side form, he was, trying to help Kabuto in that. He was supposed to look more like, a regular rider, like, say, Kabuto or Gatak or whatever. So, like, either his mask form would look more heroic-like, and then when he unmasked, it'd be, like, more of a big, bulky, weird Kaijin rider-like thing. And the idea was that he was just screwing stuff up. And then because also I like trying to add people with disabilities having powers, the idea would be after he was like defeated, a person with disability would get a hold of it, and the idea was that like the spider mode would kind of the Zector itself would help lend its knowledge of technology or whatever to this disabled individual to make like kind of a wheelchair thing that would be kind of like a weird like crawler thing similar to the handicapped guy in like what was it called? God, I can't think of that really bad Will Smith movie.
Oh, Wild Wild West.
Wild Wild West, like that really bad movie, but he had like spider legs, so when he would transform, like the Zector would also transform the wheelchair. So like the spider legs of like what used to be the original user, which was an actual like worm, would then become like the legs of the chair to help him move around and fight. So it'd be like a little mobile vehicle that helped him fight. And the idea was that when he would get the Hyper Zector, it would be like kind of like the Hyper Zector would merge the wheelchair with him, like almost like a battleizer, so he could actually naturally walk, and he would be a little bit more bulky or armored in a sense, but so he would be able to fight. And then the idea was to wrap up his story with that, like he wasn't killed, but he lost the Zector and the power to work alongside Kabuto and Gatak.
Mm.
And the idea was like he was either gonna die off eventually, that is gonna be like written off that he'd eventually die past the show's epilogue, but he would lose his power by like the last 5 episodes. So he's only gonna be there for like probably 5 or 7 episodes getting to help them, and the character was like the anarchist guy was kind of gonna be there the entire time masterminding, and it would also help establish certain parts where people were gonna stop kind of fighting in a sense, like some of the other Zector, writers like weren't gonna stop being douches and stuff. And the idea was also that like this character was also going to kind of make it that Tendo wasn't as broken. Like start making a point out flaws about Tendo, saying like the idea was supposed to be like even when he's supposed to be like the good guy, like a schizophrenic like good guy or the bad guy, he kind of points out that Tendo is like illogically broken, making like some references that he's kind of pointing out that like Tendo himself shouldn't maybe exist because he's making situations worse.
Tendo was never really challenged in Kabuto, was he?
Not really. And that was kind of what I had intended, was that like there was going to be a spider arachnophobia, like an arachnid kind of guy who used it, and then a disabled guy got it. And the only reason it wasn't supposed to be an excerpt of myself, but I tend to try to write people with disabilities, whether they have a missing leg or actually just need a wheelchair to get around, into a lot of stories because I am disabled, and I feel that compared to people who are like, oh, races don't get a lot of diversity or put on television, I don't feel like people with disabilities get rightfully given their dues in some regards. So I'm one of these guys who wants to see a transformable hero who's also in a wheelchair, but we're never going to get that because Japan doesn't think that way. So that's just me. That's why I made this character. It was never really fleshed out. It was just some crazy ass idea I had back when I was like in high school. So yeah, back to you.
Back to you, Mucha. Well, thanks, commentator. So I took the challenge, and I originally had a Gingaman idea, but I saw like how long it is, and that could be its own podcast in itself. Because, like I told Wheelz, I wrote like 10 pages of madness for it. So I decided to do something else and try to like push the bounds and do a series I don't necessarily care for in Kamen Rider Ryuki, and try to make it a writer that I would probably enjoy for that show. So enters Saigai Yagashi, also known as Kamen Rider Duel, but it's supposed to sound like Duel, but it's supposed to be like Dual, like he has two things going on. And he's a form-changing rider that has the powers of magma and storms, using the power of McGriffin and Pegastorm. Using these cards, he can use the McGriffin vent and the Pegastorm vent to access his different forms, dual magma and dual storm. I was kind of inspired at the time of like Agito's flame form and his storm form, if you couldn't tell. His powers are in his magma form. He performs a vinyl vent as like an underground uppercut, like he goes to like the core of the earth sort of, and then comes up and punches you. And he gets a weapon of a gauntlet. In storm form, it's like he gets risen up from the air and does a karate chop. And he has a bow as a weapon. And in his regular form, when he's just dual, he uses 2 swords, each one a different wing of his 2 contract monsters. I do have a survive form, but that's when like his 2 contract monsters merge, and he sort of becomes like his own entity. Like he gains access to wings, and he can use those wings in combat as well as other things.
By any chance, when they turn into like their vehicle form, is it an ATV?
It could be. Who knows? But the story behind him is after the death of Miyuki Tezuka, aka Kamen Rider Raya, Saigai had to move fast, seeing that they both wanted the same goal, which was to end the Rider War. His story behind him is that during a time before Raya met Shinji, him and Saigai were looking into the mirror world, experimenting and trying to figure out some of the things behind it. At that time, he used like Raya's like rider form and kind of made technology that was adapted to like the mirror world so that he could go into it eventually. And during that time, they would go into the mirror world and discover that the mirror monsters aren't exactly like organic creatures per se, but rather more mystical and undefined. And for Saigai, that was actually much easier because it allowed him to actually look into these creatures more and manipulate kind of like their like genus and structure to really like get down to the nitty-gritty of what they represent. And the mirror monsters that he caught were Guild Lava, Zebra Skull Waterfall, Jet Winger, and Quaker Roarer. And he also used Evil Diver, Miyuki's contract monster, and kind of looked into like the different physiologies and powers of these mirror monsters to understand what the hell they can do and why they even exist. Finding out that the mirror world is not a world of science, but it's an unnatural setting that is more mystical than a physical plane. So he kind of gets an idea that Kanzaki isn't necessarily what he claims to be. That there's something more going on that he is himself unsure, but he's going to investigate. He's kind of becoming like the Batman of Ryuki, investigating, doing detective work, getting down to like the legwork of the things that no one ever did in Ryuki, which was explore the world and try to understand what the hell's going on. And using his custom suit, he eventually modified it to create his rider suit and his deck. He made a custom deck based on like the information and details that Raya gave him. And after Miyuki's death, he had to fight alone, but he needed to create something so that he could finish the battle that Raya started. So after using his research, he created 2 mirror monsters, McGriffin and Pegastorm, based on the information of all the 5 mirror monsters that he used. But these mirror monsters aren't exactly the more aggressive ones that will kill you if they don't eat. These ones are, if you don't feed them, you lose your powers, and that would eventually make Saigai powerless and be unable to actually finish off the mission that him and Raya wanted to start. He takes the mantle of Kamen Rider Duel, the rule breaker, who challenges Kanzaki in every way he can, despite not seeing him since he never gained the contract card, per se. So, like, he's out there fighting a guy who he can't see, but he still knows that he exists and he's going to stop him. And he wants the writers to see that Kanzaki is kind of a scam, and he's going to ask, like, the most important question that no one in Ryuki ever asked. And what do you think that is, Wheels?
Do you actually think you're gonna get what he says you're gonna get?
Yes, exactly. Are you guys going to get the wish that he said he's going to give you? Like, no one in that series ever asked that question, and it always made me laugh
That
because
was yeah. That's one thing I don't like about Ryuki because it's like, are you this stupid? But then again, I mean, the Japanese sometimes write really simple stuff, very simple stuff, where obviously anyone should have figured out that, like Bruce Wayne is Batman kind of scenario shit.
yeah. But I think the problem was that you needed a character in Ryuki that kind of challenges Kanzaki in the same way that you had a character that challenges Tendo.
Oh yeah,
You
like
know,
yeah, like the first character, yeah, challenges Tendo. The other guy's just like, I just need to fight.
if there was like Kanzaki is a character that was never challenged, and everybody just kind of like ignored in a weird sense. Like the show was trying to make him more tragic than actual evil manipulator that he really is, and it was
Nah,
really,
he's a piece of shit.
yeah, he is.
Like that's why I like him is because he's just a piece of shit that's able to get away with it because everyone he chooses are just too stupid to fucking fight him, and if they fight him, he just sends Odin after them, which is just an excerpt of himself. Which would be
Yeah,
funny if him, would be funny if you're a guy fighting like Odin would be able to at least see Odin but couldn't see Kanzaki, even though technically they're the same individual in some
yeah, like
regard.
he's immune to like time vent, which yeah, that's a power I never really cared for. So maybe he's immune to it because he's not part of the whole Ryuki world kind of thing, where he's not part of the Rider War per se. He's the rule breaker, so he just breaks the rules to like Odin's like DMing, I guess.
Oh, and then it would also be a reason for his powers to then make Odin forcibly use survive. Like Odin never needed to use survive only because the other riders were technically built in his realm and he was only staged to be like their final boss. But when he fights this guy, that's the only time you ever see the survive mode actually executed
Yeah, like he's like
because he's out
the
of the system. He's out
yeah.
of he's the
He
rule
became
breaker.
Neo. He's Neo. He broke the Matrix. I guess the personality of Sagai is a determined but kind person who's willing to talk to others about their issues. But he's not like a pushover like Shinji was, where everybody kind of pushed Shinji around to where Shinji kind of came off as weak to everybody, including the audience, where he says things, but like Shinji doesn't really understand what he's saying. He know not what he is doing, and he kind of keeps on fucking up shit. But he's also not a guy that will allow like the psychotic guys that have rider powers to really push him around either. Like if he saw Oja or Tiger, those two guys, he'd be just like, no, there's no reasoning with you guys. You guys are way beyond the limit of what a normal person can be. At least with this idiot and this other idiot, I can talk to them. But you two, no, I can't do it. And he will fight them if push comes to shove, even though he doesn't really want to, because they're all just pawns in Kanzaki's game.
I feel like though your survive mode would come in around the time alternative like was there. I feel like he would like to steal more technology from him to allow him to gain uh the survive mode. Because like I'm seeing where your character could easily fit in better than the ones I was thinking of for my own self. I was like, damn,
I
damn.
also wanted to create a character that kind of explored the world of Ryuki, because another problem I had with Ryuki is that the mirror world isn't really something people wanted to talk about.
Yeah,
It's just
they don't
kind of a
talk
thing.
about it. Like the only time we ever get like any XP or as Meta likes to call it of the universe is that freaking the point in the movie where you find out how kind of stuff was created and the show towards the end on what led to the conception and creation.
Like, if we're going to go down the route that the mirror monsters are actually like pictures that Yui made, it makes sense that Saigai could actually use technology to like manipulate and create his own mirror creatures, because in a way it's kind of like Photoshop. Like he's taken these drawings and then like separated them and manipulated them to create his own thing, you know? And I wanted to like really say like the mirror world is like a DM world. It's like the D&D world. It has all these rules that the DM Kanzaki is putting in front of everybody, but like this character has like the meta and is aware of like the game, and he's trying to tell everyone about the game and telling them how to break the rules themselves, you know?
Yeah, I get you. I completely get you.
Yeah, but that's Kamen Rider Dual, Dual, but it sounds like dual because I like to have a little pun there.
All right, so that concludes our first ever, I guess, segment for creating our own character. I'm pretty sure in the future our stuff's going to be a little bit more convoluted and waste of time. I mean, for your enjoyment.
At least we can say that these OCs are better than Miles Morales. Swish.
And there's our Miles Morales joke of the episode, even though I'm pretty sure that there's going to be more in our next segment.
That's only because Olga's there.
Alright, and now we're going to be talking about unused concepts, fan theories, and a lot of like ideas that were never used, like unmade scripts, original drafts, and other stuff. Now, originally, we came up with an actual title for this segment, but it was like at 6 in the frickin' morning, and we somehow forgot the name. We should have wrote it down. We should have recorded our discussion when we were coming up with an ideal name, and we were trying to narrow down what we were going to call this segment. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, the audio might be saved somewhere, but I can't find it at the moment, so we don't even know what the hell this segment proper title is. So you'll probably see it in the title card, you'll probably see it in the lit list if we actually somehow rename it or remember it. Anyways,
We were too busy with the Mr. Rogers lore stream.
yeah, we were too busy watching Mr. Rogers on Twitch. But joining us in this segment right now is going to be Otaku Gangster, because we need like a third wheel just to hear us read these stories and just be like, what the fuck were they smoking? And now, last week we did say we were going to talk about Judas, the fan theory created monster that was supposed to be spoilers from leaked scripts of the Shin Godzilla movie. But before we go into that, we found these two sort of fan-known theories, fan-known scripts that are just so freaking ludicrous. We thought we should start with those first before we get into something so serious and badonkas like Judas. We're going just batshit insanity right now. And Mooch is going to be reading the synopsises for these two movies specifically, as well as Judas, and their background. So starting us off is going to be The Bride of Godzilla. Joker.
Oh, yeah. So Bride of Godzilla, which is supposed to be the sequel to Godzilla Raids Again. So, listen here, folks. Here's a story of a mad scientist known as Dr. Shida, who builds a robot in the likeness of his wife. However, as Anguirus and Godzilla return, he also builds a giant feminine robot called Robot Daughter that he made in the image of his foster daughter to fight these giant monsters. And it sort of like was continue on the whole lore that Yamane said at the end of the first Godzilla, saying like, I'm sure other Godzillas had survived in some madness like that. And then this film was going to explore that further by saying, yeah, there's a whole bunch of them living in like an ecosystem in like the trenches or some shit like that, in the hollows of the earth, they said. And as they find Godzillas, multiple Godzillas, Anguiruses, and just to top it all off, beautiful mermaids. Just like they were in the world of One Piece or some shit. The Doctor falls in love with one of the mermaids, and during a fight between Godzilla and Anguirus, a blood-sucking flea is lodged from Anguirus' shell. Then Godzilla, Anguirus, a giant chameleon, and a giant fucking ancient bird appear in Kyushu. And then, so he's like, you know what? I'm going to send out the giant robot daughter and defend Japan with it. And she defeats the giant chameleon, the giant bird, and breaks Anguirus' jaw like she was goddamn Mecha Godzilla. And then she faces off against Godzilla. And she is a tough nut to crack because she is unaffected by his atomic breath. And yet, that somehow makes Godzilla more interested in her to the point of falling in love with the robot daughter. And they go into the cave together with the naked robot daughter. It's like, they said, this is the comparison they said. It's like, it is the...
Nigga, I tap out. I'm done.
Oga's already lost it. One character says it is foreplay of love to be beaten. So Godzilla fell in love with this robot because it couldn't beat it. And then, at the end of all up, the robot daughter is a timed hydrogen bomb and takes Godzilla back to the ecosystem before exploding, destroying the ecosystem in the center of the Earth and presumably ending Godzilla. That is the Godzilla bride story.
Yeah. So Olga, as our guest, what are your thoughts on this actual script written by one of the writers of Godzilla Raids Again?
So this is supposed to be the sequel of Godzilla Raids Again, correct?
Yes, this was supposed to be the third Godzilla movie.
Yes.
And I think that nigga might. I don't know what happened in his life to make him write that, but I pray it never happened again. The scientist makes a robot daughter who pretty much I can't think of the name of the female version of Mazen Kaiser. So is it bionic? Like this sounds like something Giga would do more than something that Toho would do. Like I feel like this guy, he wrote this, they looked at him, they fired him, and then he started Giga.
Like from what we understand, like in the footnotes here on the Wikia page, because this is some stuff that was researched and discovered by like 3 Godzilla like historians and know-it-alls and authors, because like it supposedly sources Raigon, David Klatt, and another guy that I own a book of, saying that this was a real like rough draft script that was discovered.
You
And
ever
like
watch those movies, like those ancient movies or the movies based on like holy stuff where people find like an ancient tomb and they find like lost text and these dummies read it and it caused like the apocalypse?
yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, this is that shit in real life. They should wherever they found this shit, and as soon as they read it, they should have just left that shit. You know what? They should have burnt it so no one else has.
Supposedly, if I remember from what the Wikia said itself, that Tomoyuki Tanaka looked at it, put it down, and said like, this is why we're gonna wait a few years till we bring back Godzilla. We don't want to rush a sequel.
Absolutely, I agree with him 100%. I don't know if he's dead or alive, but
Tomoyuki Tanaka died like in '96 or whatever.
Whoa, nigga! If I ever go to Japan and I'm gonna go to his grave, I'm like, nigga, you was right.
Like
what the
Save
fuck?
Godzilla.
Here's the thing. Like Tanaka looked at it and was like, all right, let's put this down and go work on that movie Varan and Rodan. Fuck that shit. I'm out.
Do that. Yeah,
Because-
do that.
Yeah,
Because
apparently the giant ancient bird that you mentioned was like the predecessor to
the
Rodan.
predecessor to Rodan. It was literally the foreshadowing of what they were like. Like Tanaka looked at the script and was like, you know what? I'm gonna take the bird idea and be like, yo, Honda, let's make a bird movie.
Exactly, I agree. Let's make a bird movie where the birds die, commit suicide at the end. Absolutely, because that's what that script would have did to all of Godzilla's lore. It would have committed suicide. They would have put that out. There should have been any more. I think Godzilla would have been literally just another kaiju that just never made it. So he would literally be like all the other kaijus outside of Mothra and Gamera. And
apparently, the one who wrote the script for this movie was the guy who wrote for the H-Man movie.
Jesus Christ.
Is the guy who wrote that still alive?
I don't think so. I doubt it.
I hate to say this, but thank God. I feel like this would be a fucking movie that Wheelz would have made me watch, and I probably would have blown my brains out.
I would have made you watch it once just so you would realize how bad it was.
Yeah, they were like, okay. Like, Olga, we want you to watch this movie, but we're going to record it, us talking about this movie. And, like, in the middle of the movie, you just heard, pow! and I wouldn't even be talking about this movie right now. I'm pretty sure in the alternate universe where this movie was made, that Olga is already dead.
Well, Olga, it can't be as bad as when you ruined Godzilla vs. Monster Zero.
Oh, no. I ain't ruined it. I made it better.
You made it better.
That nigga ruined Godzilla. I just made it better.
I guess I should give my thoughts on it, because
Oh, man.
before you give your thoughts and we move on to a space Godzilla, because that's our next movie we need to talk about. This is what happened. So when me and Mucha went down the list of unused Godzilla concepts, because we said we talk about just the Godzilla ones, in response to us discussing Judas and Bagan, which Bagan, well, we'll get to him later. We'll get to him later. You'll understand later. Anyways, I go to the Wikia, and like Toho Kingdom didn't have this on their page, and Toho Kingdom normally has almost every concept known, and then I go to the Wikia, and it's like, yeah, it sources August Ragon and David Klatt, and I'm like, okay, then why the fuck isn't this on Toho Kingdom? Was it that ludicrous that they didn't want it there? and I was like reading more of the script, and I was like, oh, it's probably about a female Godzilla and Godzilla. Wait, makes giant robot daughter. Godzilla burns off the clothes and most of the skin, falling in love with the naked robot. I'm like, nope. I'm like, Mucha, what is this? Fam. Like, literally, I say that, and I go, Mucha, what is this? Mucha's like, what the fuck is this? And, like, at this point, like, we asked Project, what the fuck is this? And, like, Project just left the goddamn call. Like, we did not see him at all. Like, he's still gone. He's still gone. Like, we didn't even get the space guy. We didn't even read the description for Space Godzilla yet, and Project was already gone. He already was like, I'm out.
So, I told Sentai Bandicoot, and he was just like, what?
Yeah, as we were going through the list. Yeah, because as we were going through the list and tried to devise which episodes or movies we would talk about in this first ever concepts and creations or whatever it was, like, what the... This is like one of those ones where we probably could have saved this for the last, but it was just so good we thought to lead off on it, because holy shit. Just...
But can it top a Space Godzilla, Wheels?
I don't know which one's worse, this one or the Space Godzilla, because before we get to the Space Godzilla, the part where they said the robot is a timed nuclear bomb set to detonate at the core of the Earth, I'm sitting there like, you're just causing more Godzillas and them to get even more irradiated, not die, you fucking moron. You're feeding fuel to the fire.
The origins of 84 have been confirmed in this film.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's not time travel. It was not giant naked robot woman.
like all I think is like the old like this is even before like, you know, 60s and 70s with the weird trippy ass horror movies where bitches just got naked because they were vampires or ghosts. Like this is before like Hausu. Like I just imagine like some like 18-year-old chick or 19-year-old chick who's tricked into doing this role too, like just getting naked and being like touched by Nakajima in the fucking Godzilla suit. Like I'm just like, no, bad. I'm not gonna lie though, probably Haruno Nakajima is probably like thinking, man, they should have gone with this idea.
He wouldn't have gone with any idea. He just likes the work.
He really does. So I'm like, I can't comprehend it, man. Like I think when I started reading the Space Godzilla synopsis, you were more animated on that one than you were this one.
Well, because it's like the most ridiculous story I've ever heard in my life.
That's why I'm asking you to read it, because when you started reading it, it got more ridiculous. So let's go to a time in which, you know, it's the mid-70s, and Toho's kind of running out of ideas. And
they
so,
just got done with Terror of Mecha Godzilla.
Oh, so this is the late 70s. So they're just trying to reboot Godzilla at this point, and they're not sure how to do it. And this is before they came up with the original idea for 84, which was in 1980. So that's some backstory for the audience listening to us, as well as Oga here. This was like one of the Godzilla movies they were trying to do in the late 70s to keep on going with movies. So, Mucha, just start. Please, God, just start.
So, we're going to start off in the greatness of Arizona, the hottest motherfucking place on Earth, probably right next to Venus. But in Arizona, strange signals are being detected coming from a dark nebula. Meanwhile, Godzilla washes up on the shores of Japan, dying of diabetes. Scientists are able to examine the monster's organs, including its brain, and after an attempt to communicate with the brain psychically, it is discovered that Godzilla is actually an intelligent alien created creature named Roseanne. Not Roseanne Barr, but Roseanne.
I thought it was Roseanne.
Whatever. Roseanne, whatever. It's a fucking alien Godzilla, man. From the Godzilla planet, located in the region where the strange dark nebula signals originated, and is pregnant with a child. Against the protests of the victims of Roseanne's rampages, the monster's body is transformed into a rocket in order to send her and her unborn child back to their home planet. So they, like, literally turn Godzilla into a rocket to send it back to planet Godzilla. It's like if they took Bruce Banner, turned him into the Hulk, and then turned him into a rocket to launch him into space to planet Hulk. It's amazing. And once there, Roseanne and her child Lilin, I don't know, are reunited with their husband/father Kunin. The Godzilla planet comes under attack from an alien race known as the Sunrians, a species of half-human-looking creatures. Kunin and now the grown-up Lilin combat the Sunrians' general Gamoni in order to defend the planet, eventually emerging victorious.
So, Oga, what's your thoughts on diabetes? So what if I told you diabetes?
Godzilla's ultimate weakness, diabetes.
Diabetes.
So pretty much, this is the reverse story of Superman when Superman was sent from Earth to live in Krypton, right? Because so we find out that Godzilla is a alien that's been in our unit, and pregnant, and I guess died from what herpes? I don't know. AIDS? I don't know. I kind of blacked out that part.
Yeah, Godzilla doesn't have enough insulin in him.
Apparently, I guess.
In her, I should say, in her, since she's pregnant.
And then boom. But the thing is, so they take Godzilla and they turn Godzilla into a rocket with the baby still in her.
Yep.
So how do you make a rocket out of Godzilla with another life form? Like we're gonna take the baby out. We're going to make it to Mecha Godzilla. Then we're gonna shove the baby back in Mecha Godzilla, and then we're gonna shoot off the planet Kaiju.
I think I have a picture of like what they did. I could be wrong, but if not, it's still funny as hell.
I think this is less ludicrous than the sex kaiju. Because I can kind of see Godzilla being.
No, that's it. No, that's it cradling the child.
Yeah. Okay. The cat could be in like its rocket form.
Okay.
No, there is.
Godzilla holding a baby outside.
Found the picture. Yeah, outside the body.
And then Oga, this is it fighting the monster in space.
Yeah.
Also, they made a puppet for this Godzilla suit. It was a fucking puppet.
But how's Godzilla fighting the titty monster if Godzilla's a rocket now?
That's the. I think that's either the father or the son.
And the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
Wait, what the fuck?
Wait, what? So Godzilla splits apart like a three-piece rock? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, is this called a space Godzilla? Like it's like an opera?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a space Godzilla.
Now, was this before we got Space Godzilla or after?
Yes!
This was before Space
Yes,
Godzilla.
it even says on the Wikia page, this did not inspire Godzilla versus Space Godzilla. Please note. This.
Please the god, please don't relate it to that.
Okay. So, the first one, we get Godzilla has sex with a robot. He burns the clothes off, they play some 70s porn, and they get along. This one, Godzilla becomes a giant dildo, fights a titty monster, and then shoots while shooting the baby in space.
Yep. The thing is, I think it was actually made into a...
I don't know what the fuck we did in Japan, but I wish I could go back in time to stop it. Because if these are just the two that you're already talking about, and there's more, I kind of feel like I don't want to be a Godzilla. I feel like I don't want to be a Godzilla casually. But I feel like if people say you watch kaiju, and I'm like, who's the what's it? What you call me? I rather, I'm like, what you call me? And slap him. Because I would never admit to even watching a Godzilla movie ever again if these fucking movies were made. I'd be like, you know what? Fuck this, I'm done. I think Japan. I wouldn't even like anime. I'm like, you know, fuck this shit. If they're live actions like this, the cartoons are stupid. I'd be done. I'd be looking at y'all anime fans like nerd, and then keep it moving. Because this shit, I feel like if they'd have made these two movies, Japan would be bankrupt. I feel like Toho would just be a fucking company that makes amateur pornos, and Japan would probably be owned by like Russia and China and us, because they would put so much movie in stock in these two movies alone, and it would fucking destroy them. Like we wouldn't have Sony, we would have Samsung is actually Korean. We would have Sony, we would have PlayStations, we would have Sega Saturns, we would just have like
there'd be no fucking Nintendo.
It'd really be no Nintendo. Exactly, all because of these two fucking Godzilla movies.
Because Godzilla: A Space Odyssey is so level of being like Gamera garbage. And when I mean Gamera garbage, I mean like Gamera Super Monster Oga, and we watched that piece of garbage together, laughing our asses off.
Yeah.
You remember when Gamera crossed over with, what is it, Galaxy 666 or whatever? Super.
Oh no, not Super Galaxy Devil.
I'm not even gonna lie. I really want to know the other ones. Like I kind of like next time y'all do the other ones, if I'm around, I want to listen to this garbage so I can figure this shit. I don't know.
Okay. Listen, I'm gonna explain this to you right now. These two are like the only two that are so fucking ludicrous you laugh at them.
Okay, good.
These are like there's a few others that you'll laugh at. Like there's like a few things where they wanted to do shit. Like there's like
Mecha Mothra.
Yeah, we're getting that till after the Judas part. But there's a few other like ones where like there's like things where they were trying to like shoehorn in with like the human elements more than the kaiju elements. But these are the two that were actually about the kaiju elements that made me and Mucha look at each other like, what?
I agree.
Like, there's a few movies out there that hint that they were really trying to push Mickey as like an all-around idol, like not around just being like an idol, but like sex symbol too. And I'm like, yeah, that shit wouldn't have flied. Being a psychic that then becomes, you know, like not 90s Marvel hero scantily clad.
I don't know,
like,
with
nah.
the way the last movie was going, I guess she would have been Godzilla's sex slave, and they would have had that was. When they released Godzilla on Monster Island, it would have been totally different. It probably would have just been a bunch of monster orgies.
No.
You know? Like, I can see it now, like, King Caesar is, like, doing a lot of coke off Gillis's belly. Fucking Ghidorah's, like, sucking itself off because it has 3 heads. So, it's like, you know... Or the 3rd head is like sucking off fucking Megaguirus, some shit.
Hey,
Godzilla's like Megagodzilla just hands turn to dildo, so it's just like fucking it shoot dildo missiles at everything. I'm just, oh god.
Okay, and don't forget though, King Caesar is originally from China.
That's right. So King Caesar,
yeah, from China.
Which makes me want to be a communist after hearing this shit.
Yeah, let's just say when I read the diabetes, the first line where it said diabetes, I started laughing, and I linked it to Mucha, and then Mucha reads it, and then Mucha...
But like, how does Godzilla die from diabetes?
He shouldn't be dying from diabetes.
He should. Trust me, as much radiation in Godzilla, it should have killed everything. Like, he should have AIDS, herpes, chlamydia, diabetes, cancer, Lou Gehrig disease, polio. He shouldn't have shit in his body.
What killed the dinosaurs?
Exactly.
Diabetes.
Apparently diabetes, because Godzilla's walking around with it.
These two films would have been ridiculous. I'm not sure like how I would be if I would be a Godzilla fan or not.
Muja, and people say I should go to hell for my idea with Mothra.
I know.
Hey! All I'm gonna say is, Mucha, if I ever write out my rough draft for the whole idea I had as Godzilla when I was a kid and teen, and if someone tells me that's fucking ludicrous, I'm just gonna pull these two movies out of my pocket and be like, There you go. Fuck you. I didn't come up with the worst Godzilla movie ever. These guys did. Now, Mooch, I think you need to get to the main event that kind of started us on this tirade.
Oh, fucking
Judas,
yeah.
on Judas, the greatest villain that never existed.
Like, I don't even know how to describe it because the actual story is very long and detailed. So I feel like I should just talk about just what it talked about, I guess, like in like little snippets. But like Judas is what people thought Shin Godzilla was going to be. Well, one person said was Shin Godzilla going to be, and it was the most interesting story I've ever heard, where it involved how the Kaiju A was this thing called Alphagon or some shit, and it was actually that Shin Godzilla was actually a continuation of the first movie, and Godzilla somehow like survived the oxygen destroyer, but it still like looks burnt, and he's like walking around looking like a zombie, like he doesn't have any like understanding like the world around him. And like the reveal of like Kaiju B is that Kaiju B is this lanky skull-faced demonish parasite with wasp wings known as Judas. Judas was supposed to be like the Ava of like the entire film, who was just destroying everything in his sight. And then as the film progresses further, Godzilla is supposedly regenerated to himself back to full form to fight this giant creature. And then the US, being the greatest country on Earth, was just like, you know what? We're just gonna send nukes right their way because that would kill them. And they launch it at Godzilla and Judas, thinking that they killed them both, but they're not sure. And somehow this film was also supposed to be connected to Legendary Godzilla. And when it was first released on like, was it Toho Kingdom? I want to say it was Toho Kingdom.
The first time when Judas picked up steam, it was because I think Toho Kingdom picked up the idea off of 4chan. Because I remember Metal approached me about Judas is like some entity that is inside the original
Godzilla.
Skeleton of the Godzilla, and that explains why he's like irradiated, is that the oxygen destroyer really just made him freaking comatose, and like this weird particle creature thing that is supposed to be, you know, that weird Ava one-eyed mono-eyed Godzilla design that finally did get released in the promotional artwork from the book, was supposed to be like the mastermind behind everything, and it was also supposed to be like loosely based on the whole Godzilla versus Satan storyline that people thought.
Oh yeah.
Like everyone thought it was supposed to be like that old storyline that's which we found out the Godzilla versus the Devil thing is like just a bullshit thing that was like even an idea that Japanese fans thought of. Like it's so fake that like supposedly they just was asking some guy that worked with Fukuda, and he got drunk and was just spouting off bullshit because he was so drunk, and then it just picked up steam because people like reported it back in the day to like their local newspapers or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like literally how like it picked up was like I know that Judas got out there because like people made fan art and concept art based on the story.
Yeah, and not only that, like some sites, I think maybe JE Fusion, like talked about like spoilers for Shin Godzilla. Someone posted like the entire synopsis. Read at your own disposal. Like this thing spread like wildfire.
Yeah, it spread for like at least 3 full days, like just nonstop, like. This thing, and I don't remember reading it myself. I think you and Metal were the first 2 people that like actually read it to me.
Yeah, and when I read it, I was just like, okay. Once it talked about like Judas coming out of Godzilla and looking like an Ava, my immediate mind was just kind of like,
I believed it.
You believed it?
I loosely believed it because I know Anno's a fucking sick individual. Like, I was, like, sitting there, like, I'll believe it to some regards, because, like, after I saw Anno's first thing with Shinji Higuchi, that, you know, that fan-made How to Make a Toku movie, when they taught, like, you know, college kids how to do it, I was like, oh, yeah, this is obviously obviously Anno fucking trolling everyone. Like, I was like, oh, this is Anno trying to get his live-action Evangelion movie off the ground. He's using this as a fucking thing. Like if you can get the concept art to show Oga, that would be a lot better because like the concept art that fans made based on the description are actually some really cool graphics and designs that I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't have doubted it because like like knowing Ano, he just comes up with the most ludicrous shit in general. Like I've never seen that much ludicrous shit since like maybe Guillermo del Toro and Urabuchi. I mean, like I didn't believe it, but I believed at least some regards that it could happen. I wouldn't doubt it, you know.
Yeah. Oh, there's the picture of one of them.
Yeah, that's one of the concept arts made when someone read the original spoilers.
Oh, I think I would have probably. I haven't seen Shin Godzilla yet, but I think I would have probably had enjoyed actually that actual option. 'Cause I actually like that when you look at Shin Godzilla's design, which I'm not really. I'm not really a big fan of. It doesn't feel like God. It doesn't feel like the Godzilla that we know, like a new Godzilla. But if you think about it, how this is supposed to be like a direct sequel from, was it 56 or was it 84?
This is actually this is not a sequel at all. It's supposed to be just
well, like
yeah.
What
Yeah,
everybody
the
thought was
fixed,
sequel.
yeah.
Yeah, I can see that because what if Godzilla survived the oxygen destroyer? Yeah, I can kind of see that he looked fucked up.
Like that was always like the original like rumor going around when Shin Godzilla was announced was that it was just going to be a continuation of 54 with Godzilla surviving the oxygen destroyer.
It was just seems like a lot of, even though it kills me with Japan, they make a lot of ultimate timelines for Godzilla, like 54, and then like okay, you got this other timeline which is or 84, and then all this other stuff, and it's like okay. Like this is, like I actually would. That's actually an interesting what if. Like I would actually enjoy that. So Godzilla survives the oxygen destroyer, but there's some shit happens where it's like there's a negative Godzilla inside him due to the oxygen destroyer, and then like I guess diabetes as well. So
yeah,
so
diabetes.
Obviously Godzilla had diabetes. Diabetes saved him, but it also fucked him up.
Judas is infected with diabetes now. Yeah. That's the only way to defeat him.
Yeah.
Because that was the weird thing, was like the Judas storyline is that like it was just ludicrous. Like I think people just expected that, like how Anno is with Evangelion, that like, oh, obviously there has to be another monster and it has to be like some reference to his goddamn gods and monsters and shit. So they're like, oh yeah, it has to be that. Nope, it's just him, bitching and moaning about politics.
I mean, that was some legit like critiques about Japanese government, though. Not gonna lie.
Like, it's a better political film. 84.
I mean, Godzilla almost caused World War III in that one. So.
He really did, because the Americans didn't know what it was, the Russians didn't know what it was, and Japan's like, oh, we know. We're not gonna tell anyone what it's about. Yo, America and Russia are getting ready to launch the nukes. Okay, maybe we need to tell them it's Godzilla.
Yeah.
Our bad.
Hey guys, sorry. We forgot to tell you that a giant radioactive lizard's back from the dead.
Semantics.
I mean, we're not sure. We thought we had diabetes. We thought he had diabetes.
We thought diabetes killed him. Damn you, Wilford Grimley.
What if I told you diabetes?
Diabetes.
So we went from two ridiculous ones to one that actually seemed loosely plausible.
Yeah, I probably would be like, oh shit.
Like when I heard it, I didn't believe it, but I said it does sound plausible. You know what I'm saying?
It really does.
Because there was that rumor that Godzilla was regenerating to his true form throughout the course of the film, but it was more he was evolving into his true form rather than regenerating.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do find it very interesting, very weird.
But Judas kind of left his mark though on the fandom.
He did in some regards. Like not all fans know he exists, and like diehard fans kind of loosely know he exists. Cause like you could be a diehard Godzilla fan and still not know everything about Godzilla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cause I mean, look at Space Godzilla to Bride of Godzilla. That one kind of like slipped by our radar like that.
Thank God. It shouldn't even slip. It should have just fell, cracked open, split open into a million different pieces. and no one wanted to go look for it.
Hidden from the world.
Exactly.
Just like the
Put it next to
golem.
the Ark of the Covenant.
It's actually on the back of the Declaration of Independence.
And yeah, exactly. And next to James Woods, because apparently he's buried there too.
Yeah, so like that was just some shit. And when we were looking at all the Godzilla concepts that, were made and didn't get made, there were a few other ones we thought we could talk about on this episode. One of those being, speaking of Godzilla Raids again, was the loose American adaptation that was being planned called The Volcano Monsters. And pretty much the idea was like they were gonna get like either just the footage of the kaiju from Godzilla Raids Again, or get also I guess you would say hired footage. They actually commissioned new footage to be made where Americans discover pretty much Godzilla and Anguillus in Japan, and then eventually they appear in the middle of San Francisco battling them out. And this is the thing. A lot of people believe that that Volcano Monsters, this unknown draft, unmade draft, was the inspiration for the legendary Godzilla battle due to the fact it takes place in San Francisco.
That's cool.
And pretty much most of this movie follows like the ideal course of what occurs in Raids Again. Like, instead of it being that the creatures are found on a random island out in the Pacific near Japan, they're actually, I think, found on Japan battling, and then they kind of think that one of the creatures is kind of killed off, so they actually bring it to America to just dissect and figure out what's wrong with it. But then the other one shows up and they start fighting again, and then I think they're eventually killed off when like they're actually, I don't know, like I'm reading the description, it seems like
It sounds like Lost World Jurassic Park.
like it seems like it's loosely the same ending. Like it just goes back to Godzilla eventually kills the ankylosaur, and then
its jaw.
the Navy actually causes Godzilla to get trapped with oil drums and large walls of fire, then just making him fall and covering him in ice. However, then there's supposed to be another plot twist that back in Japan, another claw reaches out of the cave opening. So pretty much,
It ends with meanwhile in Japan.
yeah, pretty much it ends with there's a Godzilla under ice and another Godzilla coming out of the volcano. And it's kind of weird. Like it sounds like a good B movie, but it just sounds weird that they were willing to sort of try to commission out and reuse the footage. Like, it's kind of ridiculous. But then again, I mean, look at Varan. Like, the original idea for the American release of Varan was the same way, if I recall, was they actually paid Toho to make that movie, and then Toho made their own version of the movie through that movie. So, yeah. Yeah. It's kind of confusing. So, like, what's your thoughts, Mucha?
Volcano Monsters probably would have been, kind of like what happened with the original, where it came to the U.S. like King of the Monsters, except with just more probably American footage potentially, and probably would have been better received in what we got with Gigantus the Fire Monster, because that dub is more in infamy than actual likeness.
It's weird because I at least somewhat enjoy it since, I had to deal with that version of the film for so long that I just got used to it.
Yeah.
Banana
oil.
Like a weird thing. I'm trying to like read more about the Varan one, which I think we'll do in another episode. But like it's funny because like I knew it was a commission by America, which then led to why the movie's kind of not all there, was because they kind of had to then just put the footage together and be like, well, we got to make our money back, so let's make it into some bullshit movie and release it to our own people. So, yeah, no, that's one of the weird things with Volcano Monsters, that it was just going to be
its own
literally
thing.
its own thing based off of the footage rather than just be the movie distributed. Like they were like, all right, we'll get this footage adapted, and then we want you to make us new footage, which honestly would be interesting, but I would feel a lot better if it wasn't just going to be called the Volcano Monsters and they were going to try to bill it in America as the second Godzilla movie and try to tie it in with the other one, but then due to the whole issue with the licensing and rights at the time, because that's a whole nother story in and by itself. But when they brought over Gojira, turned it into Godzilla King of the Monsters, Rage Again got adapted by a whole nother group of people, and that kind of threw a monkey wrench originally into the distribution of Godzilla films in North America, I heard, for a short time.
Yeah.
And that's about it. And then the other movies we kind of wanted to talk about on this episode for this segment was hold on, for some reason my list is frozen on me. I can't get it to load.
Do we have to really bring up Batman versus Godzilla? Like, I want to say that's not real, but man, if it was
It's not real because there's so many inconsistencies about this one. Batman vs. Godzilla seems to be an idea that was a real idea by a few of the guys at Toho, but the thing that makes it all fishy is that, like, there wasn't any inspiration for them to get into Batman because the original Batman TV show didn't really begin airing at the time when supposedly the idea was conceived, and I don't feel like Batman was popular in Japan at that time to have them have the idea of this crazy foothold. Because supposedly the idea says that the guy wanted Batman and Robin and the Batmobile and all the Bat vehicles to fight Godzilla. And I feel like it's illogical because they say that it came to the idea of some of the writers at Toho way before, what was it, the 60s Batman series even aired in even aired in general. So how the hell would it happen?
I mean,
It makes no sense.
Godzilla fought Charles Barkley before. Maybe he could have fought Godzilla.
No, we're not doing this. We're not doing... No.
I should have said, we saw Godzilla fought Olga before, but...
No. Stop that. Just because he's here doesn't mean we get away with that. But the other ones
he has the Charles Barkley, man.
Oh god, that's true. He does have Charles Barkley as his goddamn icon. But the last things we're going to be talking about, we're going to skip over the other ones we had on this list because we're running pretty long with this discussion. But we have Nessie. Now, the Nessie project is one that we only know of in working title due to the fact that Hammer Studios, the ones who made the Christopher Lee Dracula movies, actually wanted to do a production with Toho. And what they wanted was Toho to provide a majority of their special effects based on the Loch Ness Monster. And the idea was that the Loch Ness Monster is attacking, like, everything, whether it be in Japan as well as in, like, England, and I suppose, like, it was supposed to be like a world tour kind of idea, like, at least with the effects of Nessie attacking. And it was supposedly proposed in the mid-60s, and the movie got canned in the 70s. Now, the puppet was actually made, and the actual design itself was made, as well as promotional posters and just a lot of promotional, like, artwork for it originally was made. And what ended up happening was, when a lot of it got scripted, they were realizing that maybe they need to stop joint failures with, like, other countries due to the fact that the original Varan idea fell flat, as well as Latitude Zero fell, like, right into the gutter, that they just then took the monster itself and repackaged it into a whole nother movie. And if I recall correctly, they just repackaged the Nessie head puppet and suit like marionette to be used as a dragon in one of their like mystical stories, like when they're talking about feudal era Japan. So the idea that the Loch Ness Monster was going to get its own Toho movie sounds interesting, and I actually would love to see the scripts like leak one day to tell us what was the idea that Hammer had planned doing it, since I enjoy the Hammer movies a lot. Like, I love a lot of the Hammer horror movies. So the fact that they wanted to make a giant monster based on a monster that was technically nearby them with the help of Toho sounds wonderful and amazing. Now, I know, Olga, you've seen the Hammer Dracula movies and stuff like that. So what's your thoughts on Hammer trying to make a kaiju movie?
I think that'd be interesting. I think that would probably work. I mean, it's a monster movie. The Hammerstein, like I said, Hammer did real good on monster movies, and it probably would have been a nice co-production between us and Japan. This would definitely also have opened up a lore, maybe with them with them getting off, Ness, Ness. If that happens, not, maybe they could do one in America with the monster from Lake Champlain, since that's technically supposed to be a monster as well. A viable monster. So, I mean, this could have been interesting. You have Godzilla come over here. Or maybe this could have been like our own American kaiju. That Japan's Godzilla.
Well, Hammer was England, actually.
Oh, England?
Yeah, they're the ones who made the Christopher Lee Draculas.
Oh, really? Is it England? Oh, well,
either England
I don't,
or part Germany.
actually, never mind. I don't even give a shit about the English. Screw all that. It probably would have sucked. It would have sucked. Godzilla. The Nessie would have had bad tea, been drinking tea at 12 o'clock.
Howdy ho.
Oh, my bad. I'm not supposed to say that type of rhetoric. Apologize. I still think it would have been good. I'm just joking. I like it because I watched Doctor Who and Luther. I think it would have been, I still think it would have been great, with the idea. And really, the thing would have got me would have been story and design. Like, because since Nessie's technically supposed to be, was a kind of plesiosaur thing, and Godzilla's technically supposed to be a Godzillasaurus. I don't remember that in Jurassic Park, but anyway. I think it'd have been interesting. Like I said, for me, it'd have been story and suit design. Because a plesiosaurus has really, well, it depends on which of the variant. It still wouldn't have had no legs. It would have been flopping around, unless the gill grew hands. But even then, we call that a brontosaurus. But it depends. Like I said, it really depends. I think that was smart for them to try to get into kaiju, another niche market, and that would have, like I said, open up more doors. And I think these doors being open would probably have helped them more. Helps everybody else.
Yeah, like the only footage we ever seen of the actual Nessie prop was through a like small cult like Japanese film about like feudal era Japan, I think. And even then, I can't find the actual footage from that movie. I can just find small stills and what do you call it? Promotional art and posters.
Yeah.
Like, I think it would have been cool if Toho finally did succeed in doing like an international thing after failing so many times, and to actually do it on something they kind of knew with like the Loch Ness Monster, because they made Godzilla, which probably would have been a similar effect, but not really. Because then they probably could have been able to like broaden their horizons to other countries and offer their like support and uses to other like countries that want to, make kaiju that don't involve kidnapping them.
So with that, we're gonna wrap up our show this week. We have an awesome show for you all next week with us talking about the actual Kujaku arc in memory of Daigo, Tatsuya. What is it? Tatsuya Nomi. For some reason, I keep calling him Naomi when he's Nomi. I do that. I feel bad, but I keep doing that. I feel like an idiot for that. So, yes, we'll be talking all about, his character development episodes in memory of him, as well as we'll probably have a bit of news, since some news has been popping in and out just this week that we didn't get to, due to the fact that we had two discussion topics. We had the create your character, our first ever, create your character as well as this segment of the unused concepts, fan theories, and fake,
We should just call this like the
fake
inspiration bin.
Yeah, I think this was one of our original working titles for this segment too, honestly. So, I mean, this episode might run a little long, but you know what? It's creative than most of our other episodes thus far.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, hey, whatever. I mean, if I somehow manage to edit this down yet again, that means I'm just a crazy OCD editor. And if I can't, well,
At least we have Project. I mean, what?
Yeah, where was he? I don't know.
I don't know.
Dead.
Clone Conspiracy.
Clone Conspiracy, as usual.
Yep.
Damn right, King Friday. Correct, as usual.
Yes.
So we'll see you guys on episode 14?
Yes, potentially. If this podcast isn't removed.
Hey, it's Wheelchair21, and thanks again for listening to an all-new episode of Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu. If you want to hear more content or see more content from the Hero Club YouTube channel, we're going to need you to subscribe, like, comment with some feedback, and share this channel with a friend. We also would like you to check out our website, hero-club.com, and follow us on various social media outlets just by looking up Hero Club for Life, as well as the stores you see are where we shop. Anyways, thanks again, and we'll see you all next time.